The 2017 NHL draft may not seem all that long ago, but we are now a few years out from that draft and can go back and tear apart some of the top 10 selections that were made. Now, I'm slightly kidding here, but today we are going to do another redraft. As requested by you guys in the comments, we are going to look back at the 2017 NHL draft and rearrange the top 10 selections based on all of the players selected in that year. So before we get into this today, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that now for more NHL and hockey related content, and let's get right into it. With the first overall pick in the draft, the New Jersey Devils selected Nico Hischier. Hischier was not a bad pick for New Jersey at all. The reselection isn't even a knock on his game. He's been a great player for the Devils. Unfortunately for Hischier though, he just isn't the best player in this draft, and it's really not even close. Instead of selecting Nico Hischier, New Jersey instead takes Cale Makar with their first overall pick. Cale Makar, originally selected 4th overall, has won at the highest level already, helping the Colorado Avalanche win a Stanley Cup in the 2021-22 season and getting the Conn Smythe and Norris Trophy that same year. Makar is highly regarded as the best defenseman in the league, and at just 25 years old, in 289 games played, he has 306 points as a defenseman. Makar is just now entering his prime and is the clear-cut first overall selection in this redraft. With the second overall pick, the Philadelphia Flyers took Nolan Patrick, who after some persistent chronic migraines had to retire from hockey. Instead of Nolan Patrick, Philadelphia takes Elias Pettersson. Pettersson is one of the best young centers in the NHL, and in his first 2 seasons he won the Calder Trophy and posted back-to-back 66-point years. Pettersson was injured a little bit earlier in his career, but has since returned to form, posting his first 100-point season last year, and this season he already has 73 points in 57 games played. Right now he's on pace to match or surpass his previous season total, and outside of Makar, Pettersson in my opinion is the easy pick for number 2 in this redraft. With the third overall pick, the Dallas Stars select Miro Heiskanen, and in my redraft, I'm actually going to keep Miro Heiskanen in that third spot. In this draft, funny enough, the Dallas Stars would select 3 players that would completely change their franchise, but of the 3 players they selected, I think Miro is indispensable. Heiskanen is the backbone of this Stars blue line, and without him, they would not be taken seriously defensively. Heiskanen is a top 5 defender in the NHL, has 237 points in 399 games played, and averages around 25 minutes a game for the Stars on a nightly basis. I think Heiskanen gets overlooked a lot because of how much talent that Dallas Stars team has right now, but don't sleep on this guy. His puck control and elite edges is what separates him from other guys in his class. With the 4th overall pick, the Colorado Avalanche originally selected Cale Makar. Now instead of Makar, because he was taken earlier in the redraft, the Colorado Avalanche instead take Jason Robertson with their 4th overall pick. Robertson was originally selected in the 2nd round as the 39th overall pick by the Dallas Stars, but since then he has completely exceeded expectations from where he was projected in this draft. Robo has 290 points in 266 games played, and last season had a breakout year with 109 points. This season he has slowed down a bit with 56 points in 56 games, but don't let this fool you. Robertson is still one of the best wingers in the game and should be taken high in this draft. If you can't have Cale Makar, this isn't a bad consolation prize for the Colorado Avalanche. With the 5th overall pick, the Vancouver Canucks select Elias Pettersson, but instead, since he was taken earlier in the draft, Nico Hischier will take his place. Despite some of the other players in this draft, I still think Nico Hischier deserves to be in the top 5. I considered taking some goalies with this pick, but given the Canucks having Demko at the moment, I think this makes more sense for the organization. Hischier was the 1st overall pick, and while he doesn't really measure up to some of the other guys taken at the top of their draft classes, I do still feel like he's a high 1st round pick quality player. In 424 games played, Hischier has 324 points, has become the captain of the New Jersey Devils at just 25 years old, and has become a point per game player, which is hard to come by. He's not Pettersson and he's not Makar, but he's a great pick for the Canucks at this spot, and I think they would be very lucky to have him if they couldn't get Pettersson. With the 6th overall pick, the Vegas Golden Knights select Cody Glass, but instead they take Jake Ottinger to be their new starting goalie. Glass no longer plays with the Golden Knights and only has 63 points in 173 games played, so this reselection wasn't too hard. Jake Ottinger provides an already elite Golden Knight team with a very consistent, high-caliber goalie that would thrive in Vegas. Ottinger is an exceptional goalie, having a career .914 save percentage and a .252 goals against average. Otter thrives in the playoffs and has been a very important part of this restructured Dallas Stars roster. I think as far as goalies go, it was a toss-up between Otter and one other guy, who we'll talk about a little bit more later later, but Otter would be a perfect guy for the Vegas Golden Knights. With the 7th overall pick, the New York Rangers take Anderson, but instead in my redraft, they're going to draft Robert Thomas instead. Anderson is the definition of a bust, only logging 17 points in 110 games played. In this redraft though, the Rangers acquire another high quality center in Robert Thomas, who is incredibly underrated. Thomas is often overlooked because of the market he plays in, but St. Louis fans really love his game, and I think he would fit very nicely onto this New York Rangers roster, giving them yet another piece in their already stacked forward group. With the 8th overall pick, the Buffalo Sabres select Casey Mittelstadt, but instead in my redraft, they take Jeremy Swayman to give them that much needed consistency at the goalie position. I considered taking Swayman over Otter, but I just like Otter's game a little bit more and feel like he has the slight edge given both goalies' current situations. This season with Swayman taking more time in net, I think he is hands down a top 10 selection in this year's draft. This year he has a .922 save percentage and a 2.39 goals against average, and in his career he has a .920 save percentage and a 2.28 goals against average. With Buffalo eventually drafting Devin Levi as well, this allows them to have a clear starter while he develops, and eventually having a solid tandem with both of these two guys in net. Buffalo swaps their second or third line center for a grade A starting goalie. Not too bad if you ask me. With the 9th overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings selected Michael Rasmussen, but instead in this redraft, they take Nick Suzuki. Suzuki usually is taken higher on other people's drafts, but I think 9th overall is the perfect spot for him. Originally selected with the 13th overall pick by Vegas, if you didn't know that, he actually wasn't drafted by Montreal. Vegas was the one who selected him. Slick Nick gets a slight bump here because he's been a solid top line center and has really showed some maturity. Suzuki is averaging around a point per game this year and has been around a 60-point scorer for most of his career. Suzuki is the captain of the Montreal Canadiens right now, demonstrating that strong leadership, and I think he would fit very nicely with this Red Wings club. With the 10th overall pick, the Florida Panthers selected Owen Tippett, who is no longer on their team, and instead is a great young piece for the Philadelphia Flyers. Instead, they select Josh Norris though to add to their blue line. I think the biggest weakness in this Panthers roster is their defense, and Josh Norris is just a fantastic guy for the Ottawa Senators, and would be a great addition to the Florida Panthers blue line, helping them get a deeper defense for the playoffs. Now, Norris has never played a full season, but when he's on the ice, he's incredibly reliable. That feels like a bit of a double negative, saying that he's reliable but injured a lot. That's kind of weird, but I still think you get my point here. But this is my NHL 2017 draft redraft. This was a lot of fun to look back on. I didn't realize how many great players came out of this one. I knew some of them, but just looking through it, there was so much talent that came from this. Dallas made out in this one, and Colorado and Vancouver really struck gold with Makar and Pedersen. But do you agree with my redraft? Let me know what other draft you would like me to revisit, along with your thoughts in the comments below. As always, like this video, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next one.